Jordan Peterson always has this way about him when he describes things so articulately and concisely. He can do it so freely. And I think he always captures what's at the essence of an issue. And right here, while we may be talking about things that are more surface level, he can grasp the true issue at hand. Now, he may be very hard to understand, and I'm sure I'm not the only one with that thought. He can be very hard to understand, but when you can understand, you can catch a glimpse at what he's actually trying to get at. It's more than what is surface level, and I hope you can see that here. Dr. Peterson talks about the call to adventure and how the call to adventure is everywhere. You can see it in children, then in adolescents and adults, and how it's always calling you. And if you don't answer the call, there will be grave consequences. But the call is always there, and that's what he says is the root of this life. And without further ado, I'm sure my explaining won't compare to his. So please watch the rest of this clip.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Well, and that also ties back into this idea of play. You know, like Piaget figured this out when he was watching little kids. So if a little boy wants to play house with a little girl, which is generally a good idea, if you want to play house with a woman at some point in your life, you better get that right. It's a very serious game. What's the first rule? She has to want to play. Right, what's the second rule? You have to play with her in a manner that makes her want to play with you again. Right? I've been thinking about this a lot in terms of what constitutes objective standards of morality. You know how Sam Harris was obsessed with malevolence, and he wanted to ground morality in objective science because he thought that would give us a firm standing place. But he went down the wrong scientific rabbit hole, I think. I think if you understand this relationship with play and iteration, then you have the core of morality. And Piaget, by the way, this is part of, what would you say? This is the philosophical edge of his theory. This is actually what he was trying to accomplish. How do you decide if an arrangement is good versus bad or good versus evil? Well, Piaget went to children to find that out. It's like, okay, you want to set up a game. Why? Well, game is it's the foundation of social interaction, right? You play a game with one other one other person, and then maybe you can play a game with a bunch of people, and then you can play a game with one person or a bunch of people across a long period of time, and then you could do it in a way that improves. Okay, so what are the rules? If you're a little boy, she has to want to play. And then you have to play with her in a way so that she wants to play with you again. If you do that, then you have a friend. And that iterates. Now, so you can imagine that there's a structure of voluntary play that's really quite stringent. But this is what you do on your podcast. Seriously. And that's why it's so attractive to people. You know, and that's the core of what you might call objective morality. It's like there's a very limited number of ways to offer a game that someone else wants to play. And then there's a very limited number of ways to play that game so that they want to keep playing with you. And then you could, if you add that additional constraint of improvement across the games, you've got the straight and narrow path. Right? And then it's marked by, we're really trying to do this at ARC. We want to offer a vision that people want to accept or even thrilled to accept, because that's even better, right? A game that you'd be thrilled to play. So one of the things we're doing on the energy side, I'm going to an event with Alex Epstein here in 2 days, talk to energy executives about this. You know, well, what kind of world do you want to see? Well, how about a world where there's so much energy that poor people can afford it? How'd that be for a vision? Like, have you got a problem with that? Well, poor people can't have energy because that'll destroy the planet. It's like, no, poor people can't have that energy because you'd have to let go of the game that you're playing as a narcissistic psychopath that's elevating your status inappropriately, and you're perfectly willing to sacrifice the world's poor to continue your grip on power. How about that for a psychological interpretation?
Right.
And how about this as an alternative? Why don't we do everything we can to drive energy costs down to the lowest degree that's sustainable, like in a market economy, and make energy available to everyone so that we eradicate absolute poverty? Why wouldn't the left line up again around that? Because the left hypothetically serves the poor. It's like nothing serves the poor better than an ethos first. We got to get that right because we're also interested in getting the story right. But after that, on the material side, there's nothing more important
Right,
than
but
cheap
can I stop
energy.
you for a second there? I don't think people on the left are getting that message. I don't think they're hearing that this is exactly what third world countries need, is a reliable source of energy and industry to elevate themselves out of poverty.
They're not.
They're not getting that, but it's not the problem of the people that are on the left, like the general followers.
Well, it might be a problem that's facilitated by the psychopathic fringe types. Like, look, I think
It's not offered to them, is my point.
yeah. The question is why not? And the reason is like this is part of the. You talked to Lomberg, right? To Bjorn. And
Yeah.
Bjorn's pretty good on this, or very good on this, I should say.
Yes.
To give him credit. And he would like to see a world where, and he's part of ARC, he'd like to see a world where we make energy abundance a top priority.